Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the League of Inches podcast. Sunday night, so look out. We've got our review show once again, round 2 of the NRL. We will deep dive into all the talking points to come from the weekend, myself and Jake. But as always, to kick things off, we are joined by Jesse, who is going to hit us with a few of the Supercoach talking points. Now, we've decided to, with this segment, we're not going to go through each and every single game because you've all done that by now, all you super coaches out there. You know the scores. We don't need to tell you. Jesse's now got a little segment of his own here. He's got a high five. So he's going to have to choose 5 players. I'll give him the hard task to choose in 5 players only each and every week. And he'll come on and talk about him, whether it's for a good reason or a bad reason. We'll obviously know as he's talking about him. We'll go from there. I feel like I have an idea about this tonight. I think he's going to go got the good and the bad. He's got a bit of both. So it's going to be an interesting chat on a few fronts. But this is obviously just to help you guys as well, getting into the week of when trading does open up. Obviously, our Wednesday shows after you've already all had a bit of a trade. We'll talk about things more in depth then, but Jesse will give you a bit of his thoughts at the moment. So let's get stuck into it because I feel like, again, tonight's going to be a big episode. Jesse, Supercoach, talk to us because just saying off air, the scores we're looking at, I cannot believe we're in round 2 of Supercoach. This is an insane year already.
Yeah, the scoring so far has been absolutely unbelievable. The number of tons that we're getting for round 2 is just insane. So we're already seeing, like, I got beaten in a head-to-head 1550. I couldn't believe it. I got smacked with a 1500 plus. I was like, that is absurd. I think I put a 1360 up this week before the rescores, and I'm very happy with that score. It's really solid. It won basically all of my head-to-heads bar this one. Untalented Guthos, Luke, in the Podmasters group, absolutely smoked me. So we're seeing some monsters, man. It's crazy. Perspective, right? There are 25 scores above 90 this week. 25 individual players. 15 of those are above 100. So, yeah, we had 15 plus tons this week. That's just nuts. So picking 5, it's really hard to do. But starting it off, I've gone with Clint Gutherson as number 1. So we obviously spoke a lot about Gutho going to the Dragons and his moves and everything about him. He has it in his game to just take control of something and just really rack up Supercoach points. He's coming off the back of a 113 last week into a 146. It was one of the biggest rescores I'd seen this week. It's actually going to put him with a break even going into next round of minus 52. Priced at 675k, he is going to the moon. He could be a very quick ticket from a failing fullback to see what happens with Turbo's injury if it is one. Gutho is going to boom. So the buy in round 3 hurts, so that kind of sucks for his cash gen. But round 4, is a very, very potential move there. Could be really good for it. But yeah, got to highlight how bloody good he has been and how much control he's taken over the Dragons. So Gutho, the king of a super coach option for sure. Going into my second one, it's a bit different. There's a few people that scored a little more than him, but Luke Metcalf. It was traded out by over 13,000 people this week, and we did speak about it on the pod. Give him a chance, give him another run. It was a bad game for him in Vegas, and that kind of play at least deserves another run. And for the ones that stuck by him and played him this week, 117, he'll take that every day of the week. Shuffles his break even back down quite a lot, puts him down at a 6.8 now. So very healthy, really nice. A lot of people wanting off Duff if they've got him. You can move Metcalf into your halves. He's a dual position. There's so many things, but if you kept him, you're laughing. Like it's really rewarding. So good on him. Yeah, it's a hell of a game. A try, 2 assists, a shit ton of everything else that he done. So yeah, really impressive from Metcalf. So it was a really good bounce back.
You simply don't get Supercoach if you didn't play him this week. He was every day of the week a play.
Yeah, you have to play your halves especially when you're putting him in that sort of price bracket. But yeah, I saw a lot of teams sitting him this week for different reserves because of all the cheapies that went bang, and they didn't really do that this week. But yeah, a player like that, you kind of just have to let him take his chances. And yeah, 117, massive.
Let him cook.
Hey, let him cook.
Let him cook.
Another player that I want to let cook, share a namesake with the fella. Bloody hell, Jesse Arthurs. Mate, let him cook all right. Bloody hell. He's coming off the back, priced off 330 or 341 he's priced at, off a 94 and a 96. Not very traditional of Jesse Arthurs to be putting up, near tons back to back to start the season. One of the biggest break evens I've seen going into the price changes, minus 85.5. So if you don't have him, make plans next week to get him in your side as soon as possible, because talk about Gutho going to the moon. This is Moneybags Arthurs over here. He's going straight up. But yeah, look, he's killing it. That left edge, again, we spoke about it. They're really impressive. He's scoring tries for fun. He scored a hat-trick, first time ever. So yeah, he's in a purple patch. And I feel like with that kind of thing, you sort of want to time the run and sell at a high. So who knows when the high stops? That's the thing. It started quite early, and he's looking hot for it. So yeah, massive props to Jesse Arthurs. The cheeky
He's hot as well.
Oh God, he's a bloody good looker, isn't he?
I don't know what the Broncos are feeding their players, but that is a good-looking rugby league team.
Straight up. They'd have to have a good handful of the top 10, surely.
Oh,
there's a lot of nail polish getting about in the Broncos. So I'll get to the last one of the Broncos, but obviously a lot of players did score in their tons. Number 4 for me is Tino on return. What a game! 3 stints, a try, 100 points. Massive wraps around Tino. A lot of us were super keen on him. I got him in this week. I didn't start with him, but kind of quickly rushed him in as soon as I could. Traded in Haas and Tino this week, so 200 points between them. You're laughing, but really impressive, man. He hasn't skipped a beat. Coming off an ACL, like, you got to give it to him for that. He was everything. Shame about the result for the side, but either way, like, he's obviously doing all he can do. No, 100 points he'll take. It doesn't matter what the scoreline was. So, yeah, look, he's going to be a very popular trade-in for the next couple of weeks for sure.
I'll have my eye very much on him already. So, I said I was willing to take the hit this week, and I knew it was going to hurt. He was on my watch list. He's now become almost a must, in my opinion. So, you've been very, very positive to start this one. I know there's been some brilliant scores, but tell me you're going to finish with a negative, please.
Oh, I have to finish with the biggest negative of the week. Funnily enough, the lowest score in round 2 for every player that physically walked out onto a field this week. Reece Walsh, 9 points, 80 minutes. Got a massive downgrade too, from 19 to 9. So they just rubbing salt in the wound for all the Reece Walsh owners out there. It was brutal, man. For a side, like, to be fair, the Raiders took him to the sword. Like, they really put him to work. It was a very, very gutsy, like, good win. Like, they deserved everything they got. Reece Walsh was nowhere, man. It was error-ridden. There was penalties. He couldn't get anything right. And the score reflects it, 9 points. So it's one of those things, like, you look at Walsh when he's hot and you think, shit, man, like, there's a superstar here. But you sort of get a little bit blinded by the low games. And we always know there is a low game. 9 points is low. 9 points is lower than you could expect out of anyone that's playing 80 minutes. So coming off 95 points and a very impressive show in round 1, to finish with a 9 in round 2, it's worrying. But again, like, I suppose if you've got other fullbacks, if you've got a Turbo and all these other little spot fires to put out, I don't think Walsh is the number 1 priority in your side. But you just got to know the roller coaster ride that Reece Walsh is. Like, he's got those games in him. So I don't think that'll happen too many times. Honestly, I think you might get 1, 2, 3 this year, but God, you don't really want to have him when he's doing that sort of stuff, especially for people that captained him and rolled the dice on that sort of game. Very, very disappointing. Because it's been a really
too many.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can't be putting up that sort of, like, especially for the quality that Walsh is expected to be in that position. Yeah, can't be putting 9 points up.
No, it's that, and we were very boisterous about this in the off season, and we had a number of people message the page and asking, "Oh, you haven't mentioned Reece Walsh, blah blah blah." And we kept warning him. We kept saying, "Yeah, there's some times where he looks really good, but in the Supercoach game itself, especially, and look, in the NRL world, he wasn't good on the weekend either, but he just has those scores a lot more than the majority of their fullbacks in the game, and it just puts me off him every year. Like, I just never once entertain. I know, Jesse, you say time him when he's at his lowest, and then hopefully he goes on one of those little runs, which I can respect that game from you because you've done it before and it has worked for you. But just me, I just won't do it because I just think it's a massive headache to watch. You're watching it from behind the lounge, not because he's scaring you. It's just like, it's more so about I hope he's going to
Yeah.
score something this week. Like, please
Yeah.
do something.
Yeah,
So,
it's one that you can easily avoid. You know what I mean? We've got enough
yeah.
talent at fullback at the moment, to not really humour Walsh if you really can avoid it. Like we got Gutho putting up 146 in a side that's super dependent on him as an individual as well. Now that you look at this Broncos side, like there's talent across the board. Like they've got people, they got Hunt doing a lot of stuff in there as well. They've got these really solid forward pack. It doesn't seem like he needs to be the guy for it. But if he fails and if he continuously puts up errors, they just find another way. And they have been anyway. Well, they lost that game, but you could really tell it was like, God, Walsh is a liability in this game. So yeah, you don't really want anyone like that. But look, man, there's a couple of massive scores outside of there, man. You know, honourable mentions if I had to throw them in there. Ponga, Tedesco, showing their class as fullbacks. That's the echelon of fullback you kind of want to have. At least Ponga, at least 50% owned, so everyone sort of got in. But the VC Ponga play this week was the go. Congratulations to that. A few massive ones outside of that for a cheapie as well. Starling 103. You can put a few of them in there. Matty Nicholson, I really wanted to shout out Matty Nicholson too.
Yeah.
On debut, freaking monster, absolute gun too. And Hosking's got a broken wrist supposedly now as well. So Nicholson stocks through the roof too, man. So there's a lot that's come from this. Again, I can go through all these scores, but that's not really the segment. It's meant to be a bit quicker. The Wednesday show will really dive into a lot of these guys because there's going to be massive price changes this week. And yeah, a lot of really appealing options to look to get in the next, this week coming, next week after that. Really budget out your price rises and kind of go from there. But yeah, a bit of fun, a lot going on.
Mate, there is. And talking about the Wednesday show, I need to let you go because I need you to start preparing for it now. It is
Yep.
going to be an absolutely huge show, guys. Like, I know we've got a huge Supercoach viewership out there and they love it. But we'll warn you now, Wednesday night show will be humongous. So get ready to get your questions in for that one. The show will be, honestly, we'll be going for about 2 hours. I've got no doubt about it. It's going to be massive. And just to leave everyone out, and Jesse, correct me if I'm wrong, this week's big priority is setting yourself up cash gen wise. Like your trades should basically be all about making sure you're getting those players with the great looking BEs and are going to start making you some cash to really be able to build your team over the next few weeks.
Yeah, I would say definitely. This is the week that we've had a chance to look at players, crack out massive scores. We're gonna see who has the best break evens for it. There's going to be a lot of we're looking at Arthur's -85. There's a couple. Jason Saab is in. He's in there. Saab as well, a bit dearer. He's in there with over 2 tons. You got Gutho with a -50. You've got Toya. You've got all these boys. You've got a lot of cheapies coming through. You got some expensive guys too with really low break evens. So if you want to kind of budget up a little bit and stay, if you want off the 200, 300K guys, spend up at 600-700K for a really low break even. That's an option too. Like the money will come. Doesn't matter how much you're buying them in for. So it's a massive BE target week, this one, this and next, because it rolls over into next week too, a lot of them. So yeah, it's going to really shoot a lot of it's going to be a massive coin injection, I would say, in the next week or two. But yeah, that's the priority, I would say. Let's get into it.
I agree. Go ahead, go and prepare. Thank you for jumping on, mate.
Thanks, boys.
And just a reminder, guys, we will have actually a big BE sort of post coming out tomorrow, which will have some of those real big BEs to look out for, and a few of those players that are pretty much sells straight away as well. So keep an eye out for that post. We should have that by mid-morning, I reckon, tomorrow. So thank you, Jesse, and we'll chat, no doubt, Wednesday night. So
perfect. Sounds good.
Cheers,
see you guys,
brother. Jakey boy, I know you want to have a quick gloat. Let us know your Supercoach score at the moment, pre-updates.
I got a 1380, and I am loving it. I got up in that, and I got up in my draft for the League of Inches, so I'm pretty happy this week, to be honest.
Just behind the scenes here, and I know Trav will be listening to this. Trav, Jake's put myself and you on notice. Jesse's just missed a Supercoach for us, so he can't be on notice, but Jake wants a spot on the Wednesday show. So he thinks he's the man. He thinks he's got everything what it takes now. So, and viewers, let us know in the comments once you've watched this part if you think Jake deserves a shot on the Wednesday night show. He feels like he's the big dog in town, the Supercoach king now, and he wants to take one of our seats on the show on a Wednesday night. So we'll see. 1 week, There's more. What did you score last week? Sorry,
Oh, mate, I'd have to
you don't
look.
even remember. That's how bad the
I'll
score
get it
was.
up.
So we'll just chill out and go from there. Let's talk some NRL football. So let's go all the way back to Thursday night. Sorry, guys. First of all, my voice and stuff.
12:33.
Yeah, that's cute. I've doubled up 1,300 both times so far this year. It's about consistency. But anyway, we'll move on. Yeah, my voice, if I do sound a bit, my son's giving me something. I don't know what he's giving me, but he's going through it at the moment this weekend, and he's starting to give it to me. So hope I don't get the conjunctivitis part of it, because it is disgusting to clean out a baby's conjunctivitis. But anyway, we move on. Shout out to all the parents out there who know exactly what I'm talking about right there and know what sort of weekend it's been for me. Jakey boy, I want to talk first of all. The Knights put on a show against the Dolphins. There's a slight Dolphins element I want to talk about, just because, let's go there first, actually. Let's start off with the negative and go to the positive quickly. It just hit my mind quickly. I know we said last week about the Dolphins, we wanted to give them a pass mark. We wanted to just let them go, obviously, with what happened with the cyclone and things like that. Short notice, we go, yep, no worries. If I'm being honest with you, they looked better last week than they did this week. And I know they had the flooding issue. They had to come down a little bit early. We've seen in the past, I think back to the COVID years, that actually helped a team get closer a lot of the time. And we've seen the best out of a lot of teams during that time, because they just said they got to be together, get to know each other at an even more personal, in-depth level. And it really helped. I was watching the Dolphins on Thursday night. Got to say, mate, very worried at the moment. I'm at the stage where if I was to do a ladder at the moment, I'd probably be having them in the bottom four. I'm just not liking what I've seen at all so far from them. I think they've got some real issues in the halves. Not bagging Katoa at all. Katoa's going to be a great young player. He needs someone experienced in there helping him along. And at the moment, there's no one on the market to do so. And that missing out on Hunt's signature is looking to be a huge problem for the Dolphins.
Yeah, no, 100%. One thing that I sort of said in the preseason, and I think you bagged me out a little bit for it if I remember correctly, but I said that Nikorima is not the guy next to Katoa. And I'm going to stick by that. Like, he has good moments in games. I've never sort of sit there and thought that he's had like a fully good game. Like, there's always mistakes in there and stuff like that. But all in all, you're right. I think that there's defensive errors, like there's defensive issues. Their attack just looked clunky it just looked like directionless. And yeah, well, like you said, I sort of said last week, they had stuff, they had the cyclone going on, they had families that, they were in the cyclone and they're probably worried about them. And like we said, at the second half of that game, they came out and looked real good. This side of things, it just never really felt like they were ever in it for the whole 80. And I tipped them. So like I had that much faith of last week. That much faith last week that they were going to, they're going to come back and actually show us what's going on. But you know what? It looks like the Wayne Bennett curse might be upon them.
Didn't want to say it yet. That will be down the track for sure. We'll bring that one up. Don't waste that bit of precious content yet. True. It's always there. But definitely, I think it's on a lot of people's minds at the moment. It's very concerning, because at the moment there's nothing to really improve that side either. So I'm not sure where they're going to go. They do get Bostock back shortly, I believe, but they need him, because that Tupou on the wing there is just not doing it for him at the moment. He's been very, very ordinary 2 weeks in a row, and they simply have to drop him this week. Whether Bostock's ready or not, they surely have someone else in the backline they can bring in who can do a better job, because that's been a huge issue for them at the moment. For the Knights, though, I want to talk about, obviously, the Kalen Ponga show was immense once again. Player of the match, probably player of the weekend, really. He was absolutely sensational, put on an individual masterclass. But at the same time, I want to go a little bit to the Fletcher Sharp move as well, to 5'8". It was at the start, a lot of people, including myself, I don't know if you mentioned it as well, I had my eyes raised for this move. And I was thinking, I don't know if he's the 5'8". Like, I know he's a fullback, but in the line and defensive, maybe weakness, things like that. He's held his own in that side of it. Plus, with the attacking, I think what he's brought to this side, the Ponga Fletcher Sharp combination, I continually say I can't believe how dangerous this combination can be. I think they're going to bring out the best in each other. And we've now got a situation where teams coming up against the Knights have to be worried about more than just Kalen Ponga. They've got to be worried about Fletcher Sharp as well because he's on fire.
Yeah, I was a person who doubted this move big time, and I still think it needs to be given a little more time before I can confidently say that it's worked for sure. But what I'll say is, and you kind of said it at the start, you said like, oh, the Kalen Ponga show, and that's what it's been for so long. It's been the Kalen Ponga show, and there's never really been almost anyone else mentioned in that sort of idea. It's not the Kalen Ponga show and these guys. That's it. Kalen Ponga is the one guy. You stop him, you stop the team. That's not what it is anymore. From what I can tell, they've got Cogger playing in that halfback role, which I like because he can actually direct the team around. And Sharp just has that good eye of, you know what, I'll take it on. I'll run. I'll do some running myself if I need to. I think he took. I had it up. He took 9 runs. Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, he took 9. Where is he? Yeah, he took 9 runs throughout that game, which is really good for a 5'8". Like, I think a 5'8" should be varying it up between that passing and running sort of role. I think he does that really well. And the acceleration that he has on him will keep teams, like, they're going to keep teams looking at him at all times. So even when he does decide to pass it, well, they were all looking at you. Sweet, hit it to your second rower who's going to go through. And if they go for him, then you go. Like, he provides so many options in attack that just haven't been there for the last few years. And I think he looks really, really good in that spot, to be honest. And I think that it can work. I had doubts, but my doubts are dissolving slowly over time.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I just think it's a great move, and credit to Adam O'Brien where it's due. I know we've been we've bagged him a lot on this show, on this page a lot, but that's been a great move so far. It makes them such a dangerous football team, and it helps the outside backs, which is a really strong outside back component, to be honest, when they're all together firing. It helps them all get the best out of each other, so their forwards have a lot of pressure week in, week out to make sure they're up, because if they are, they can put some points on a lot of teams this year. They can be a dangerous side to look out for. Next talking point I want to bring up from the weekend's games, we'll sort of go down the track. So the Warriors were great against Manly, but I want to talk about this from Manly because we were huge on Manly last week. Raid and rightly so. They put on a masterclass against a dreadful Cowboys outfit last week, but now they've got the chance to back that up. A 6-day turnaround. They said from the interviews pre-game that's not an excuse. They're ready to go. They love the week that they've had, but they came out. That early try might have been the worst thing that's happened to them, because after that they just fell asleep. They were a completely different side. Then we've seen at the end, obviously, the Turbo and DCE injuries happened throughout the game, which was obviously a concern as well for Manly. We've since been told both look like they should be able to back up for next week, which would be huge. That's the early prognosis anyway after scans. We'll see if they take a cautious approach or not with them. But before that, Jake, like, I'm just going to say, like, that Manly's had this in their game for a number of years now. Like, I personally rate them. They should be a top 4 team in my opinion. I rate them very highly this year. But they need to start getting this performance out of their system, because it happens to them too much. And this is the reason why they always end up being in like a battle for the aid, and they need to have their stars firing, because they lose too many of these games where the good teams, they don't do this. They don't lose these sorts of games. They just get away to make it happen. I'm talking the Storm. Yep, obviously Penrith lost what they did on the weekend. That's very un-Penrith-like. Normally Penrith are just doing what they do now for 4 years straight. So concerns around Manly for you?
I'd say my concern mostly is around their forward pack, because as we've talked about before, their centers and wings and things like that, like when they have a bit of go forward with their forwards, they will dominate, and they will dominate anyone. I was although one specific player in their backline that I was very concerned with was Jason Saab. He just looked so unmotivated on the weekend. Like, there was a few times where they got on the outside and he had the opportunity to, we know how fast he is. He had the opportunity to put his foot down and absolutely, book it. And he would just jog and then try and do like a little kick or something. And I just, he reminded me of Mike Acevo in his worst days. So that's never a good thing.
Shout out to you, Mike.
And then, yeah, well, sorry. Yeah, but anyway, And then, like I said, their forward pack got dominated, and you can't do much off that. So, like, you have one of the best fullbacks in the world, and one of probably the best halfbacks in the world. They can't do much off nothing. Like, no half and fullback can just typically create when their forward pack is just being absolutely dominated, and that's what happened. And I suppose we'll get to it in a second, but I'll just quickly touch on this. The Warriors have the forward pack to be able to do that. They just didn't show it last time out. So it's not. I want to say that it's not just the Warriors like getting over them. The Manly were handling errors. They were making errors in bad spots when they didn't need to, and it just let the game get away from them, kind of thing. But yeah, that the forward pack needs to step up, I think, in the future. Yeah,
definitely. I think it was a huge lesson that the Warriors pack gave me, especially their front rows. We were real critical of 2 weeks ago in Vegas, the way Webster used his rotations and interchanges for both Barnett, Fisher-Harris. Credit to him. I think he fixed that up straight away, which I did anticipate he would do because it was crazy the way he did it in Vegas. So I don't know if he was trying to offset the travel, things like that. I don't know, but crazy. Looking back on it, just absolutely crazy, especially against a huge Raiders pack that has dominated now for 2 weeks in a row. And I think people need to start waking up when it comes to the Raiders. We'll get to them shortly. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I liked what I've seen from the Warriors. They kept it very simple. Like, I actually wrote down in one of my notes, it was funny, before they scored one of their tries, I said they're very boring in attack. They just keep going into the middle and taking, like, it felt like to me they were taking one too many just hit ups to the post. But it's obviously like the game plan. It's just to smash the team's middles and then create a little bit of space for the edge, and then they'll get tries that way. And it worked for them perfectly. So we always say rugby league's a funny game. Like, the better you are at playing it simply, the better you'll end up being, really. Like, and they showed that. That's exactly the style of play which gets you wins in this game, in this competition. Like, all teams are good in a day, but if you can continue to play that sort of game, more often than not, you'll walk away getting the win.
And the thing is, that's what the best teams do, is they have forward packs that typically will play it straight and through the middle. And then that's all they need to let their backs do some creative work. And, we always talk about I feel like with the Warriors, one of the biggest things that everyone always talks about is how skillful backs are and how skillful, they always seem to be very off the cuff style of sort of football. But the reason they've sort of seemed to not have as much success is because they don't lay the groundwork for that to come off. And so what their forwards did in this game was basically, hey, we're going to put our hands up. We're pretty much one of the biggest forward packs in the comp. Let's put our hands up here and actually, give our halves and our gun halves, a gun back line and gun fullback something to work off. And let's actually sort of take it up to these guys and let's show them what we can do as a forward pack and have some pride in ourselves. And that's all they did. They laid a platform, and that's what sort of everyone talks about it. Your forwards have to lay a platform. That's what happened in that game. Their forwards just took it to them all game. They didn't slow down. They didn't stop. And then magic came off the backs.
Yeah, no, 100%. The next game here I want to talk about, the Roosters versus Penrith. Simply put, what was that? What did we witness, Jake? Can you start us off here, kick us off, take the opening hit up? Wow.
Mate, we witnessed what I'd argue is one of the greatest games of rugby league of all time, if I'm being honest with you.
Wow.
Sorry, my headset's just cut off if you want to take the lead on this.
Oh, you're right, mate. No, I'll take it. We can hear you perfectly still. It's just you might not be able to hear me.
I'm back. We're good. I'm back. All right. We've witnessed one of the best games of rugby league of all time. And people are going to think I'm Penrith's biggest hater. I'm not. I just like to see games against them where teams get up over them because they're so good. It's a testament to them, right? It's a testament to how good this Penrith Panthers unit is and what they've achieved, right? But everybody ruled out the Roosters. I don't think there was a person on the planet going into that game going, yeah, Roosters are actually going to win this game. We've got this, they're 100% going to take this over. But you know what? I reckon that's almost that idea of like how youth, like younger players, because they're a very young team right now, that youth, they kind of feel invincible. It just kind of feels like what happened there. Like they just kind of went, hey, what do we got to lose? We're versing the best team in the comp. All right, okay, let's get at them. And they did. It was great. It felt a lot like their confidence grew through the game. Like because they got on the board first, and then Penrith scored after that, I'm fairly certain. And then usually teams would kind of go, oh, okay, and then kind of pull back a bit. Roosters just went try for them. They went, if we scored first, if you score, we're gonna score. You score, we're gonna score. And eventually they sort of got up on them a little bit, but man, it was just so great to watch. What an awesome game of football that was.
It really was. And the thing I want to put into perspective here we all know the players they've lost. We all know the injuries they currently have. Add to that this week, they lost Radley, and then they lost Lindsay Collins as well, like a night before the game. So that was huge in itself. They went into the game with a bench of Zach Docker-Clay, Makahisi Makatoa, Blake Steep, and Taylor Lasalu. No disrespect, but that could be one of the worst benches I've ever seen run out for an NRL game. Like, I know a couple of them are young players, and they've got a great future ahead of them, clearly. But at the moment, talking in terms of where they're at, they're nowhere near what some of the benches are in the game. Like, that alone is just ridiculous. Then you say, like, someone like Mark Nawanga-Wingatasi is literally in his third game of rugby league. He's still clearly learning the game. Put on an absolute clinic against the premiers of 4 years. The halves have been rightly bagged for what they've showed so far this year, including trials. They stood up again, Nathan Cleary, nonetheless, and they just the whole Rooster. I don't want to undersell this victory enough because I know you look at the scoreline 38-32. You go, oh, mate, the defense wasn't there. Like, that's out the window. Roosters, the fact that they won this game is big enough in itself. That's potentially one of the best victories in an NRL game I've ever seen. Like, and I hope that's echoed through a lot of people because that was absolutely sensational. Like, no one gave him a chance. Like, the odds, I think I've seen random stats shout out to him, said it was the second best of all time. Yeah, for odds wise for a victory. I think
it was since 2009, not of all time, but it was since 2009. Still crazy like odds.
Just ridiculous.
I want to correct something as well that I said. It was actually the Penrith scored first. And I remember this because I remember thinking, wow, this is going to be a bloodbath. Like, oh my God, this is going to be an absolute smacking. And then Roosters just went, nah, okay, cool, they scored. Sorry, I didn't mean to take over you there, but I just had to correct that I actually got that wrong. I thought Roosters went in first, but I remember, it was wrong.
Mate, you don't need to apologise to me. It's your show now. You're a big dog.
Yeah, I'll run it. I'll run the show.
Just with Penrith, is there any concerns from you? Obviously, it's a loss. Any other time they would win this? I thought Isaiah Yeo was very quiet, which was very unlike Isaiah Yeo. But anything to pick out that you're concerned about? Like, Cleary probably didn't have his best game, but didn't stop trying. Just a very odd game. Like, normally you'd see that Penrith would win this game any day of the week. They just didn't.
No, what I'd say is I wouldn't say that there's concerns for Penrith. Like, they hadn't that loss at all. Like, it wasn't because they had people out that was why. I think that the Roosters, for the word I'm looking for, is I think the Roosters disrupted them. Like, they just disrupted them. They just kept in their face, didn't give them time to think, and just took away from everything that makes them Panthers like. And I think, funnily enough, the Roosters outgrinded the Panthers, which just doesn't happen. They just went set for set for so long. Just set for set. Just went, you know what? We are not going to be the first team to drop this ball or make an error or give away a penalty. We're going to go set for set with you for as long as it takes for us to win this game. And I just think it was honestly such a testament to them. And I think, not that it puts away question marks, but everyone was saying, how we've been talking about it, how people have been talking about, like, Trent Robinson 5 years. And I know that sounds like a dumb thing sort of to say because it's only one team and it's 5 years, but it's legit. They have barely lost any games in the last 5 years of them playing. And this is a huge win, a huge, huge, huge win that cannot be undersold.
Yeah. No, echo everything you said. So it'll be interesting to see how this bounces back and how Penrith play, because I think there'll be a lot of clubs who are due to go to Vegas be watching very closely, because they'll be the ones that everyone's watching. They'll be going, well, if there's going to be a team that gets impacted and we'll be able to tell there's an impact from this Vegas, a post-Vegas come down, I guess, hangover, it'll be Penrith, because every other year they haven't had hiccups. If they have hiccups this year, I've got no doubt Vegas will come into the limelight and clubs will start going to NRL. We don't even want to go. Like, I don't know if you can make us go, but we're not going to go. So get someone to go twice or things like that. It'll be interesting to watch. One more thing in this game that I want to bring up, and I mentioned it in our chat throughout the game. It's a rule that I hate, and I want to bring this up at the moment because in the chat, I think Trav disagreed with me, so I'm interested to know in the comments. Let us know whether it's a podcast comment or YouTube, or just jump into social media. Hit us with a DM. This disruptor rule, I hate it. I absolutely hate this disruptor rule, and I think it's stupid to have one. Like, we're basically just saying you can't pressure or do anything once the ball's up in the air. Like, why is it such a big deal if you're going up in the air and balking, for instance, a professional player trying to catch the ball? Like, wouldn't that be a tactic? Like, I feel like that shouldn't be a penalty. But anyway, that's a cool thing to actually bring into the game more and say, all right, like, we've got some of the best fullbacks in the game that hardly drop anything anymore. Like, they're just that good. Isn't that part of not to make sure they realize they don't have a free go at this ball every time? Like, there's going to be pressure. The front row forward might not be able to jump 30 foot high and get the ball off you, but what a front row can do is potentially balk you, put an arm up in the air. As long as it doesn't hit the ball like a knock on or anything. Like, I don't get it. I don't know why it's a penalty. I really don't.
I hate the idea of someone doing that to me, but at the same time, I'm not a professional rugby league player who gets paid $800,000 a season. So, like, I hate the idea of someone jumping in and sort of disrupting me. But yeah, exactly right. I'm not someone getting paid over $1 million a season to catch a ball. So the way I sort of see it, I guess, is it is pretty dumb for professionals to have that rule. Like, why not? Why if you jump up and just pretend to get it and don't touch it, why are you getting penalized for that? It's, jump up, put your hand in front of their face for all I care. If you can get away with it, if you're not going to if they're not able to see the ball, but you're not touching them, you're not hurting them, no one's at risk of getting hurt, then why is it an issue? It's just a bit stupid. I hate that it's something there. Yeah, it could be like jump up and block his face. Like, it'd be pretty funny.
I don't get it. But anyway,
the worst thing about it is if they're going to bring it in and they're going to have it there consistently, be consistent. I haven't seen that rule been used since last year, like round 5 last year. But all of a sudden it's back and worse than ever. Like, when they did that little crackdown on it, it was still inconsistent, and now they're doing it again, but for one time. Like, is it a rule or is it not? Because people were doing it most of last year. It's another one where you had this big crackdown and goes away.
You're winding me up here because there's now one more that's gotten to me, and I've already seen it so much this last 2 weekends, and I mentioned in a lot of group chats I'm in as well, is this whole downtown rule that's all of a sudden non-existent. Now, I'm watching every game, and every time I almost dropped an F-bomb. I'm that feeling that much about this one. You see teams downtown, and we were told the downtown rule is it doesn't matter about giving the fullback 10 or whatever, you can't be it, you have to be on side. And I've seen it so much in the opening 2 weeks, and under my belief, the NRL hasn't come out and said that's not a rule anymore. That's still a rule, yet the referees are not touching it once. There could be, honestly, I'm talking 5 or so penalties at least per week that I've seen. Probably a lot more. Actually, I would say 5 per game, to be honest. It should be 5 per game.
One pretty much. It's one every bloody kick, honestly. Like, it's pretty much every single time. And you know how many kicks there are in a game? Yeah. Like, if you're completing 20 sets in a game each, and you have someone doing it pretty much every time, that's more than 5 penalties in a game. That's huge.
And that's the thing that annoys me. I was just saying that's what annoys me, like a consistency. We had this rule brought into things, and all of a sudden it's disappeared once again. And guess what? By the time 3 weeks before final starts, guess what? We'll have a crackdown on it. It's just, yeah.
I don't understand why referees or why these rule changes keep sort of coming in because the way I see it, referees are getting bombarded with these changes. I know there wasn't meant to be many sort of changes this year to the rules, although they did do that crackdown on the play the ball, which personally, if there's any one that these crackdowns I've liked, it's that one. I like the play the ball because it's something you're taught since you're in under sixes, and if you can't play the ball correctly, get off the football field. I don't know. That's just a personal pet peeve of mine. But they get thrown so many extra rules on every single year, and all these different little crackdowns they have to do, that they're never going to be able to focus on the one thing for too long because it just goes away again. So like sometimes I think, and don't get me wrong, referees in this game are abysmal at times, right? And I'm not denying that, but at the same time, sometimes fans, us included probably, need to be like, hey, maybe instead of the referees needing to do something different, they need to just stop adding rules to the game. Keep it as it is for 5 years. Have 5 years of it being the same thing. And the refereeing will probably be more consistent because at least they have the same set of rules to like referee on. So that's the way I see it. Like, I'm not saying none of the blame's on the referees. They get paid a lot of money to referee these games correctly. Make sure you know the rules. Simple as that. And they do it every week, so it's their job. But at the same time, I just think they get a lot thrown at them.
Yeah. No, that's fair. That's fair. Back on the games now. I just want to talk the Cowboys. Jakey boy, we've said it about Todd Payton. I'm firming on it. I don't think he's going to be around much longer. If the body language is anything to go by himself and the Cowboys, some of the calls, like we spoke about the Nanai one, the way the team's playing in attack, they looked horrible. This was a home game for them. Now let's take into account this. They've trained in this weather every day, basically, for the last 3 or so months. After about 10 or 15 minutes, they looked like the away team that just got there, and they were the most unfit team I've seen in the NRL. Like, apart from today, we'll talk about that soon, but they looked out on their feet at home after about 10 minutes. Like, that was just horrible. And I know there's Cowboys fans who said to us at the start of the year, like, we made the finals last year and this and that. How can you say Todd Payton?
We know what that's like.
Sacked? Yeah, like, you can't hold on to that sort of stuff for too long. And for mine, it's just not going to work this year. I think early on, and we've seen it last year with the Rabbits and the Eels, they both made their decisions quite early and just said, let's just get on with it. I think the Cowboys will get into that stage at some point. The other thing I was worried about, they've got a couple of good youngsters at the moment. Purdue, Duffy, they're just getting shot out there. They look like they're playing with no confidence whatsoever all of a sudden. Everyone's spoken about at length how good Duffy was last year in reserve grade. Now they're chucking him into this team. He's absolutely shot for anything. And I think a bit of this has to be directed at Dearden, Drinkwater, their senior players. Cotter was one of those ones that looked out on his feet after 10 minutes as well. These senior players need to stand up in this team and be accountable for this because they're the ones that have to put their hand up, take some tough runs, take a hit, go, not these kids. You're going to destroy these kids if they keep playing in this team for much longer because from what I've seen so far, not good.
Yeah. No, I'd say you're absolutely right in the sense that their senior players are the ones that need to stand up. Like they've got some young players in there and it feels like they're the ones that are trying to bring everything that they can, but like they can't do it on their own. You have to have the rest of the team around you. The Cowboys this year so far, I know they've only played 2 games, feel very similar, I suppose, to last year's Parramatta for me. Because they just it feels like they have all these players who should be going really well, right? And all these senior players, but just like very unenthused, if there was a word I was looking for. They just don't look like they want to be there. And I'm wondering if Todd Payton's lost the playing group. Like I'm debating with myself whether Todd Payton, don't get me wrong, I'm sure that he's not a bad coach as a person or whatever, but it feels like he's lost the playing group. It feels like they don't want to play for him. It feels like they don't care. It doesn't seem like they care if they win or lose. And I just think that they have too many good players to be performing the way they are. They shouldn't be. Don't get me wrong. If they've lost these 2 games and it was close, maybe there's a little bit of a difference there. But they've been flogged twice now. Absolutely had it put on them. And again, it did not look like they wanted to be there. That's an issue. you've got one of the best fullbacks in the comp, one of the best hookers in the comp, one of the best 5'8" in the comp. Okay. And, Duffy's only young, but he's young, energetic, he brings some energy. Like, I think they've lost attack too with Holmes again. I think Trav said it earlier in one of the other podcasts where he sort of said Holmes was their only real attacking spark if they needed it out on an edge. They obviously had Drinkwater, but on an edge kind of thing, who the go-to man. And so far, he's been proven right because what are their outside backs done? Just doesn't feel like anything. Their forward pack's got nothing going forward. I think they need a serious revamp in their forward pack. That's something that needs to happen over the next few years.
It's quite funny, and I'll add this. I sat down to watch this game. The missus sat down, and it was funny. It was just as Todd Payten was getting interviewed before the game, and she doesn't listen to anything. She doesn't read stuff. She has no idea about any coaches under pressure or what I think, anything like that. But she goes to me, it looks like, and referring to Todd Payten, he looks really tired. It's the first thing she said. She goes, he looks really tired. And it just made me think quickly. I was like, I think like what you're saying there, like losing, like it feels like he's just in a constant battle at the moment. Whether it's him, whether it's the playing, whatever it is, I just don't think it's going to work. And like end of story, I don't think it's going to work. I think it's just we said this quite, and everyone was saying this early on about the Eels last year and the Rabbits. You said it, like Cowboys are that team. I feel like this year, and they've just got to start realizing what's happening. Knocking on the head because their run doesn't get any easier either. They've got some really hard games coming up. They could generally be 9-6 or 9-7 by the time they get their first win, which will be huge. And even more evidently, Todd Payten will be gone. So don't want to bash the bloke any longer. I just think when it's not working, you can't just keep trying to push it uphill. You're just better off to sort it out and go from there. Next game that I want to talk about, Ricky's Raiders here, Jake, and they are absolutely on fire. I want to pose the question to you. I'll pose it to the community today. So now it's our turn to answer this one on air. The Raiders, are they a top 4 smoky? Let us know your opinions.
It's a tough one, isn't it? Because we're 2 games in and we've seen such mixed results from every team in the comp, except for the Raiders. I'll say this, they've been consistent. I think they're a smoky. I think it's actually a fair point to say that they are a smoky to be able to make the 4. I wouldn't say that they're going to finish sort of top 3. I think if they're going to be a top 4 team, they're going to sit in 4th by the end of this year, because I think there's going to be times where they'll fade out like they kind of have in the past. Like, I mean, in games specifically, like they and Ricky always sort of says it in his interviews. He always just goes that they have this in them. They have this type of game in them. They always just seem to sort of fade away. But we both said that and I know you're real high on him, but Fogarty, right? We both said that last year they would have finished a lot higher if Fogarty was in there the whole sort of time. And so far he's been in there for 2 games, and they are looking great again. And they did this at the start of last year before he got injured. I remember the Raiders were looking great at the start of last year. So, if he doesn't get injured and the rest of the team can sort of stay fit, it's a bit of a shame on Hosking. That is, broke his. It's a very big shame on Hosking because I rate him highly. But their team's looking great. Like I'd say what they look refreshed, they look rejuvenated. They don't look like, because the Raiders have been kind of a very similar team. Yeah, they do. They just look, they got a young bit of energy about them, and just like a bit of hope in that, like, we can win these games. So let's just get out there and let's just go hard at them and let's see what we got. And I think there's no reason why they can't make the 4 with the team that they have.
I think they're definite smokies to the top 4. I'm getting higher and higher on the Raiders. I've been so impressed. As you just said, I think out of all the teams so far that have played 2 games, I think they've been the most consistent and the best team so far this year, which, there's only been two weeks. Storm coming off the bye this week will probably be first if in that order. They are on the ladder, but there's a few things I really like about what I've seen from the Raiders. I think their squad is perfectly balanced, and there's so many times where you look at so many teams, including this year, you look at their roster and there is clearly issues, and you go, that roster's not balanced well at all. The Raiders are the total opposite. I think Ricky's actually done a wonderful job, and he does get paid out a fair bit going, He's always safe in Canberra. No one wants to go there, but he has worked his ass off for that side and that club, I reckon, to get him to where they are now. He's worked very well with the youngsters. He's got a good crop of youngsters coming through, but he's also kept the right experienced players in there as well. And they're all just gelling so well together now. And they're such a well-run side. And you look through the whole list, their forward pack for mine is a top 4 forward pack. That is, even without Tarpany on the weekend, which so many people said, that was the only reason I didn't tick Canberra this weekend, because there was no Tarpany and I didn't think they could do it without him. But Big Papa, Horsburgh has just come back. He will be a guarantee for the Queensland side this year. No doubt about it, the way he's started. They just absolutely took it personal. And then you add in their edges, Young, Nicholson came on and played a great role. I've been really impressed with Smithies as well. Like, he was, for mine, quite boring last year. It felt like he was restricted in a way with what he could do. Maybe that was just Ricky's way of saying, no, get used to the NRL this year. Let's focus on you for maybe next year once you're used to things, a bit more experience. And we've seen a fairly different player. Like, really impressive what he's doing. I know it's a bit less minutes, but that probably works for him. He can do a bit more in that and a bit more energy. And their backline is just young, fast, Weeks at the back, young, fast, skillful. And Fogarty's just steering the ship. You said it again, like, if he played with those games he didn't get injured for last year, we would have been talking about top 4 for Raiders last year. That's how good they were going before he got injured. I'm just very big, Jake. I'm very, very big on the Raiders at the moment. I think a lot of teams will sleep on them this year and they'll get their pants pulled down.
Yeah. Their forward pack isn't one that before the season I kind of thought, I just thought they don't really impress me. But looking back on it now, like, they've got a lot of that English talent they're just hardworking and just don't care if they get smashed because they just want to go out and smash people. They got Tarpany, who's up there with the best forwards in the comp right now. Papali'i is interesting because he smashed it on the weekend. He is obviously getting a little bit older and he hasn't been in the best form for the past few years. He smashed it on the weekend and, hopefully his form sort of stays. Overall, they look fantastic. We said during the trials as well that KO Weeks looked just freaking awesome. And he suits that fullback role so well. And then you look at their sort of center wing combinations and they're fast, like they're really fast players, but they're also real sort of strong players. You got Sebastian Chris, Xavier Savage, like they're just really, like you said, they're really well balanced. Like you don't look at it anywhere on that field and go, oh, there's your weakness, there's where you target. You just go over and you got to try and outbash them, which is not an easy task.
Couple of headaches.
They look like the team that made that grand final against the Roosters.
Yeah, that's a good shout. They
feel that way.
Ricky's got a few headaches, doesn't he, coming up? He's got obviously Tarpany when he comes back. Needs to fit him back into this forward pack now, which includes Matty Nicholson, which it didn't last week or in Vegas 2 weeks ago. So he's going to have to find someone to drop, which he actually said in the presser himself. He goes, that's the hardest part of his job. He actually has that strong of a...
Hosking, though.
Hosking now will go. But when they do get back to full strength, which will now be a few weeks with Hosking, there's some headaches there. And the back line now, like Savage will come back in this week. And who do you drop, Hopewadi or Tamale, who's been great since he's come into things. So I think Hopewadi had a few difficulties with defense reads on the weekend, which might be to his downfall. Because for mine, Tamale's done nothing to get dropped, and either of the centers. Tomoka's been back to his best after a quietish year last year. He's been good, and Chris has been sensational so far. So, yeah, maybe Hopewadi because Savage has to come back in. He's just got form at the moment, and he's changed as a player. So, brilliant.
Yeah, for sure. No, they're looking really good.
Yeah, they are. Now, next game up, I want to quickly start this one by just saying the West Tigers, well done. I just want to say, I said this last week to people, and I know the media were out there bashing the Tigers. Oh, the missed tackle count. They didn't really look like they improved, and I basically called bullshit on it. I said, like, it felt like it was just a typical media bash up on the Tigers because I was pretty impressed with what I saw last week. I thought, yep, it's a new side with new combinations. They were missing 2 key spine members in Buller and Coruscant, which we've seen today how crucial they are to what they do and how good they are for what they do. any other team having 2 spine members out probably lose any game that they play anyway, because it's that crucial to them on a week-to-week basis. But yet it was the Tigers, and the media bashed the crap out of them, which I just think they chose an easy way out there. I thought that was very poor by the media, to be honest with you. This weekend they just looked like that improvement continued. To be honest, I don't think they're anywhere near their best, which is scary, because I think there's a really good football side developing into this team. And again, I think Luai was fairly quiet, which is, again, a bit of a scary thing because he hasn't found full form yet. Galvin sort of was the main man today, and he did a great job working with Coruscant and then Buller at the back, which, again, the 2 players that they missed last week were 2 of their better players today. And my final shout-out for the Tigers before we go, and I'll get your views, and then we go on to the Eels. Terrell May, you are an absolute animal. You're an actual freak. Like, we talk about Payne Haas and how good he is. We're just used to it now. We know what Haas does. Terrell May, and the fact he was told by his club last year to leave, he wasn't wanted, just makes this even more rewarding. I feel like rapping him, like, it just makes it just feel better about it. And just a real, like, what the hell were you thinking type thing. But Terrell May, like, he just doesn't stop. What was it, 37 degrees or something today? He didn't go off for a break until 65th minute mark, where he literally just said, I can't move anymore. Like, I've got, and you could tell he wanted to, but those 2 runs he made, like, towards that back last bit, was just not him. And you're like, all right, just go off, bro. Like, you've done more than enough. Off you go.
I can't wait to see his game against the Roosters, because I reckon he is going to rip and tear. Oh, mate, I'm very excited for that one. But yeah, I'll follow your lead on the Terrell May. I think that he is a freak, and we knew that he was the first one into my. If you want to talk about first one into your Supercoach team, he was the first person that went into my Supercoach team this year, and I knew exactly what he would produce, and he stayed in there. He never left my team. Because I just knew exactly what he was going to produce at the Tigers, because he is going to be their main man all year until he gets injured, or if he, I hope he doesn't, but he is going to be their main guy. And the biggest thing, I suppose, was, how good for me Coruscant was to link up with linking back up with Luai from obviously their Panthers days. Like they've obviously already got that connection. They don't have to think about that, and they could just kind of play off each other super well. Buller being back is huge. He was everywhere. And I know a mate of mine's a massive Tigers fan, and he was kind of like, I don't even really rate Buller that highly. Like, I don't think he's all that. I don't think we could kind of give or take with him. And I'm like, you've seen him in a team that's been dominated like for 3 years, and it's not been his fault necessarily. Like, he's usually been your best player on the park a lot of the time. Wait till you get a good forward pack and a better go forward, and you will see him absolutely dominate. And so far, at least today, we did. And I think that they're going to be not. I don't know if they're going to be a top 8 side, but they look like they have the willingness to try this year. Which they're not getting the spoon. I'll tell you that, they will not get the spoon.
No, they won't. They'll be in the. They're more likely to be in the fight for a finals position than they are to be in the fight for a spoon this year, for sure.
Agreed.
And I think the Coruscant. I think the Penrith factor has been undersold by the Tigers. I think they've recruited very well. They've got a few very good ex-Penrith players. Even someone like Taruva brought so much energy to him today. And I know some people probably, especially Para fans, probably got annoyed with him and how he's carrying on and stuff like that. But that's what you like. I personally sat back. I loved it. Like, I got to the point where, as a fan, I was just over it from my own team's perspective. So I was going, this is what the Tigers have needed for so long, this energy. So they're going to have to back it up. If they're going to play like that, they need to back it up. And we used to say this all the time about Penrith, but then it got to a stage with Penrith, they actually just continually backed it up. And we went, all right, no worries. These players are used to it. They're used to backing it up. But the thing is, they're not just going to have to rely on themselves. They're going to have to get the rest of their group to back it up with them now. That's the pressure for them. They don't have the Yos, the Clearys, and that to help them back it up and go, yeah, we'll get this done. Now they've got to make sure they win next week and then again and back it up and win a few in a row.
What I'll say, though, is last year it felt like Coruscant was trying to do that almost on his own, basically, as the Penrith player that they got across to try and be that leader and to try and take that team and do that with them. It felt like he was literally grabbing the players in that team by the jersey and saying, get up with me and let's go and do this. And no one else was with him. This year, they're almost outnumbering the people who like, they're not going to be allowed to make those, not to make the mistakes, but to not be accountable for them. Like, you're going to have Luai, or if someone in his team makes a mistake and gets up, he'll get up them if he needs to. Coruscant will get up a person if he needs to. And I'd imagine, I know he's only young, but so would Galvin, because Galvin's a competitor and he wants to win. I know he's not that ex-Penrith that I'm sort of talking about, but he has that, like, I want to win everything. I just want to compete and win. And I think that's just such a Penrith mentality, the way Penrith are at the moment. It's such a Penrith mentality that he will just suit with them, and he will suit in with Luai and Coruscant fine. And that's just, their spine's just it's only going to develop.
100%. Their opposition today weren't good. No, denying that. The Eels. What are your thoughts, mate? What are your thoughts?
I think if the Cowboys don't get the spoon, we will.
Yep.
Look, brand new coach, right? I can't say I have zero hope of us turning it around, because as a Para fan, you have to, right? Like, as a fan of your team, you have to sit there and go, please, there's got to be some way we can turn this around. For me, that hope sort of sits in the fact that we have Adokar to come back, Simonson to come back, and Moses to come back, right? And also, like, Ryan Madison, because he obviously had that injury and stuff, and he's going to be coming back. You know, we've still got some experience that was down in reserve grade to kind of, you know, that needs to fix themselves up, but they can. I like that Riles is willing to make changes. I like that he's willing to drop people, move people up, like that sort of stuff. And he's going to tinker. He's going to take time to tinker. But the issue is, right, he's got a squad mostly made of Brad Arthur's players that tinkering isn't going to help if they don't put in any amount of effort. And that's my biggest issue with the side right now. It isn't necessarily, I'm not going to at all blame Riles yet, because how can you? He's just started with the team. He still has a majority Brad Arthur-based team, the team that he sort of walked into. And it's not as if Ivan Cleary won a comp in his first season as the coach over at Penrith, and he had the systems in place where they were looking really good. We weren't looking good last year. Riles has come in and been asked to turn this team around from a team that competed for the Spoon Bowl into a team that should be making the 8. It's not going to happen in 2 games. I think if we don't start seeing any amount of improvement by the middle of the season, I'd start to be more concerned. But I don't think we're going to win a game, at least until Moses is back. I'll say this. Again, I thought Iongi was impressive. I think that once we get a bit of go forward in our forwards, and that might not be this year, but once we do start to do that, I think Iongi is going to rip and tear, because he has shown not only can he can defend a one-on-one tackle, which I love to see. I would love to see that he can do that, because that was one thing that Gutho saved us on a million times in his career. And that's one thing that Iongi seems to have. But Iongi also has pace. He's got that step. He's got ball playing ability. So with a bit of development, he's going to be a really gun player, and I'm very excited for that. Other than that, we suck.
Oh, they do. They do. That is for sure. It was just a performance that lacked heart, lacked pride, it lacked passion. It was honestly a men against boys performance against the West Tigers. And I know I don't want to be disrespectful. We gave the Tigers all the raps we deserved, but at the end of the day, they're improving as well. They're sort of in the same boat, probably 2 steps ahead, if I'm being honest, at the moment compared to us. But they're not that far ahead. They're not the Storm of last week, yet we still got beat 32-6 or something. It's just those performances, whether you can't blame Riles or anything like that, but at the same time, just early days and what they're trying to do there is clearly a number of players that simply need to leave the club. The club needs to find ways to get rid of them. There's some that might be able to get the player option in and go again next year. I'd be finding anything possible to push some of these players. Like Lane, once again, did nothing all game. There was a number of times I've seen him just slowly jogging, not even making efforts. That left side defense was horrible all game. I actually felt sorry for Will Penasini throughout the whole thing, because he feels like he's the victim all the time, being the center, but he's not the one making the decisions. I watched every single time they made breaks down there or a poor read. It's either Lane or Dylan inside of him, who knows where Dill's head at, or Russell coming in for whatever unknown reason and just making horrible plays. And it makes people think, oh, hang on, what's Will doing there? But it's not Will. Like, I actually feel for Will. That whole left side is just, I don't know what it's doing at the moment. and they're the side that's been playing together the longest out of anyone in that team at the moment, which is the weird thing about it. They should be fine. It should be teams going to the right side and attacking the right side where Lomax is, and you had Samrani there today, but it wasn't that side. Like, Russell shouldn't wear a Parra jersey again. Like, I don't want to be too harsh on it, but he just hasn't shown me anything. Anytime he's played first grade to suggest he's a winger, and a good quality winger at that. So I'm just over having
man? He was part of the Prime Minister's 13 last year. He's a gun, man. I don't know what you're talking about.
He's a rep player. He's a rep star. So Volkman isn't a halfback. I think we all know that. He's been thrown there, and I feel for him. I do. He's coming back from a huge injury and being asked to play a position he naturally isn't.
He needs to develop.
Brown isn't a halfback. So the whole club, the whole side, the whole team still needs a massive clean out, in my opinion. And that's just been brutally honest. I have to call it where I see it. And starting from the top all the way down, there is huge issues still, and it needs to be fixed.
All right, I'll give you a challenge, and we'll see if it comes off. And if anyone in the comments wants to kind of do the same thing, they can. But how many changes from this team list to next team list? How many changes you reckon Rolls makes?
So Tuesday team list?
Yeah, like from last Tuesday's team list to this Tuesday's, like 17. Go 1 to 17. Yeah.
Depending on who's actually legit back, or obviously Adokar's one that would be a guarantee. He'll be in the side. I'm going to say realistically from Riles, I reckon he'll make 4. I'd love him to make like 6 or 7, but I think 4 is a decent number.
Do you want to name like 3 of them? You can think of, like, just adding. I'm just curious who you think's going.
I think Adokar. I think Hawkins might be fit now as well, so he might come back to 7. Give Volkman a rest. I think Maddo will come back in the side, even if it's just on the bench.
I reckon Maddo comes in on the second row for Lane, and I reckon Lane either goes to the bench or gets dropped.
Yeah, and I feel like Guymer has to come back. I felt a bit for Guymer. I don't think he was one of the worst against the Storm. Like a young guy against the Storm pack who absolutely tore it up. I just felt like he was used a bit of a scapegoat, if I'm being honest. He's had good games in the Eels jersey so far. I think that was a bit harsh. So hopefully get to see him back as well. So yeah, probably 4 I'll go for, but I'm hoping
it's a solid. I reckon you're right. I'm going to say, although just for something different, I'll say 5. I reckon he drops 5 people.
But can I also say one more thing on the Eels? And I thought about this in the game. In the trials, right? And I know people don't talk about trials. We look like one of the fittest teams in the competition. We now look like one of the most unfit teams, if not the unfittest team in the comp by a mile. Like I just said about the Cowboys, we look like we'd get lapped by the Cowboys at the moment, like being legit about things. Our fitness, how does fitness go away for inside a month? I don't get that. The other part to that is we're lacking clearly in attack. We have no attack whatsoever when Moses isn't there. Who was our best attacking player in the trials? Not Isaiah.
Joash
Papali'i was the best attacker by a mile, in my opinion. Yet he's not in the team. Like I'm not too sure what's going on there. But if he's your showing the most and you have your big playmaker out, wouldn't you then get him in the team somehow? And this is what some of the best teams do well. They've got these players, they just get them in the team and they make it so that they can play, and they find a way to inject them. Even if it's off the bench, inject them. Now, people will say, well, we've got Riley Smith. Sorry, but Brandon Hands for mine has shown nothing the first 2 games.
Yes,
and Riley Smith's shown way more. Just start him, put Joash at the 14, and off you go. So I would love to see Joash. I think he deserves it. I think we need that spark about 25-minute mark. Come in, play a versatile lock role. Like, I know he's small, but like you've got to try something. Like we're getting smashed 2 weeks in a row. We're going to keep getting smashed. Try stuff. That's all I'll say.
Well, I'll quickly add to that. If I was Rolls, man, you'd start Riley Smith. Brendan Hands has shown absolutely nothing. Brendan Hands gets dropped. Papali to 14, because I've heard that if he needs to, he can play in hooker anyway. So basically, if you're desperate, like, or if Rolls is Riley Smith is like cooked, he's in the middle and he's absolutely gassed, and you slot Papali in there for a little while, and just let him do a job, just get the ball out in there, and then if he needs to, he can shift into a half or whatever, depending on what they need from there. That's how I do it, but I'm obviously not, getting paid to coach the Parramatta Eels. So
I wonder if Jason Rolls is going home tonight talking to his wife going, sorry, babe, I don't know what I've got ourselves into here, but this is an absolute shit show that I was not prepared for. So, sorry, Jason. We're sorry.
I believe in you, mate. I believe in you.
Sorry. Last one for the night before I go into a couple of the questions that we did receive. The Bulldogs absolutely rocked Belmore. First of all, it was so good to watch that game after watching what we watched the first game. Belmore was pumping. It always is. I just love that atmosphere now. The Dogs fans do it so well. And the Dogs players just absolutely bounced off that energy provided. And they were rocking as well. They started on fire, basically bashed the Titans out of the game early on, and the Titans were never in it. Since I know they came back a little bit, but from mine, the Bulldogs were in control. Obviously, a bit of a worry there with Burton. And then it was the kick out as well. With both MCL injuries, it seems like. So they'll be out for about 4 to 6 weeks. I'm hearing Kickouts might be a little bit worse, so he might be a bit longer. But the Dogs were the Dogs. That they haven't missed a beat from last year. That they where they were last year, and they're going to be a thorn in the side of a lot of teams this year.
Oh yeah. Well, we sort of had that question during the off-season of will they be the 2023 going into 2024 Warriors, and it doesn't look like it. I didn't think they were going to be anyway. Just had to pose the question, but I just think they haven't lost anyone. They've actually only gained really this year, and I think their bench players make a huge impact for them. Connor Tracy looks great at the back. I'll just say it again. I just think he looks absolutely incredible. I think that he is someone that they should keep there, and they should, actually, I'll give him credit this week is that Toby Sexton looked really good in this game. Just trying to think who else there was. Bronson Sherry looked real fit. Carraz he's not back yet, is he? He wasn't back in that game. I'm just trying to
he's not back.
No, I didn't see him.
There was some rumors he's back as soon as this weekend, but I don't believe that's going to be the case. I was in round 3. So I thought of it I remember Gus saying a few weeks ago that he hadn't even started training or something. And it was quite bad, the injury. So who knows? There's a lot of whispers around. I haven't heard anything in concrete. I haven't seen a Gus tweet, but we'll see what happens.
Either way, I think that they haven't really lost anything. They've only gained since last year, and there's no reason why they can't upset some teams again in this year's competition. They lost Adokar, but young, what's his name in the white headgear? I can't even think of his name now.
Skelton,
their winger. No, the winger. No, they did lose Skelton, but who they have?
They're
Montoya on the wing,
and Nari Twala as well.
Other wing. It wasn't a Nari Twala. Oh my god, this is killing me. We know because the Eels would link to him. This is killing me right now. Hold on.
Who are you talking about? Great riveting podcasting here.
I know, riveting podcast. Me, buddy. I know. People. I'm sorry. Blake Wilson. Thank you, God.
Wilson.
Well, Wilson. No, he looked good. He looked really good. Consistent, and we all knew what he had in him, and I think they're going to have to play him because they don't really have any other wingers at the moment. So it's probably good that he's doing well for them. But yeah, no, they're gonna surprise some teams.
Yeah, no, I agree. I was just saying Wilson. I just can't get that out of my head now. So, and just on the Titans quickly, just Tino, big Tino for Arsenal and Malawi. Great to see you back, mate. Brilliant first performance from a side that was getting bashed. It's a bit weird because I've been high on the Titans forward pack this year, and that was a great one that started. And to see Fafita sitting on the bench for the whole half was a bit odd, but yeah, that is what it is. Let's get into a couple of questions. I did post these very late onto the Instagram stories. So from moving forward, guys, what I'll do on the Instagram stories on a Sunday afternoonish, I'll probably put a little post out there. So make sure you're following us on Instagram. Type in League of Inches, and you'll see us there. We're cranking up the followers there. That's been going off, so I appreciate everyone loving and supporting social media pages. Same as Facebook recently, going over the 20K followers, which was huge for us before the weekend's game. So again, thank you to everyone out there. But yeah, Instagram stories, go on to it on a Sunday afternoon, night. Put a question in if you want to feature on the podcast moving forward on a Sunday night, part of the review show. any hot questions about your team and how things are shaping, put in the comments, and then we'll read them out live on air. So first one I had Lachlan Hall 277. Do you think Dragons can still get around 10th? Mate, I think from what I've seen so far, I wasn't impressed with their first half against the Dogs. I think they ended up coming back into that game quite well in the second half. Then they had the polar opposite. They started on fire on the weekend. I have no idea how they lost that game. I remember at the end of that game trying to do the 3-2-1s and stuff, going, I'm about to give this to a South Sydney player, and it felt like the Dragons had probably the better sort of players. Like Gutho was great in my opinion. And Flanagan mentioned it in the presser. He's very disappointed. He's going to smash him this next 10 days. So you don't want to be a Dragons player. He's absolutely going to flog him. So you don't want to be one. But I think they should be 10th. The thing is, they don't want to get into this habit of losing these games, and they're going to fall back onto their halves. The halves for mine were poor in that second half on the weekend. They should have iced that game. They had enough points on the board to do so, and the halves went missing. Hence why Gutho's getting so many Supercoach points. He's doing so much. It shouldn't always be on Gutho, though. Those halves need to start really stepping up. They're in the NRL. They're first-grade footballers. They need to start acting like it, because they should have shut that game out.
Even I agree. They had him on the ropes, and they absolutely let him back in with too much time left to make it an easy sort of slide of a victory. But yeah, every time that the what's his name, Sloan, went in, it was always Gutho throwing that big cutout ball across to him, and it just kind of always looked like it was Gutho throwing that final pass. And I'm like, I get that that's kind of a fullback's job, and he's so good at it, but it's like, if he's the only one getting try assists, what are your halves even there for? Just get two more props and just let him be the only half. Let him be the one that does all the work. Like, they're not. And this kind of the concern we had is they're not finishers. If they're stuck in a game, if they're like in that tight one, are they going to be the one that will take you over that line and win that game for you? And I just don't think that they have that in them at the moment. So I think if they're stuck in those real tight games, they don't have the composure to win them at the moment, especially not Elias. Although I have to say, I bagged out his kicking heaps over the holidays, and I thought his kicking game over this weekend was a lot better than what I've seen when he was at the Rabbitohs. He kicked the ball out a lot at the Rabbitohs and stuff like that. Big, long, deep kicks to try and get him out of trouble. So I think he's not bad. And we know what Flanagan can do because of when he was at the Roosters. What his time at the Roosters showed what he sort of can do and what he has in him. So and I think he always sort of played his best under his dad too. So hopefully they can sort of develop as a combination over time. And I think they need to figure out who's their main guy. When it comes down to it, who is their main half that needs to sort of step up when the chips are down? Usually it should be a number 7, but either of them have been number 7, so it could go either way.
I think their main half at the moment is Gutho, unfortunately, and that needs to quickly change. J.A.S. 2024. Been an Eels fan for 12 years, and I've got to say I'm done supporting this club. Mate, as a supporter, I know you go through some emotions and stuff, but at the end of the day, you still support the club. You don't support the club. You might have different opinions of club management, things like that. I get that, but that Eels emblem, you continue to follow it, or you continue to follow whatever team it is that you follow at the time. Supporters, you got to stick solid through the bad times. Make those good times even better. I know at the moment it feels like those good times are a long way away. But think back to 2022, for instance. Like that was that remarkable run to the grand final. Felt like we were living on cloud 9. Like it was such a great time, fun time. They're the reasons why you support certain clubs, and it sucks watching your next door neighbour Penrith win 4 in a row. It sucks watching the Dogs now improving and getting better and better. It feels like every game. The Tigers are now doing it. We're like the last placed Western Sydney side, which hurts. I get it. There's been some poor decisions the last 12, 24 months by the club itself that they need to be answering questions for, and I think they've gotten away with a little bit there. But stick solid. You obviously don't have to go out, support, spend your money how you want, get that, but just stay there, stay supporting behind the shadows.
Oh, we're frustrated too. Like, it's not as if we're sitting there going, yes, this is exactly what I wanted to be doing. But I'm still going to watch every game. I can, if we can lose every game this season. I'm still going to probably be there watching every single one just because they're my team. And it sucks, like you just said, it sucks when you're going through that period of pain when your team isn't doing well. But there's going to be time where that will go away. And I do have faith in Riles over time. You're just going to have to give it to him because a lot of coaches haven't walked in and just like when they had to do these big rebuilds and it's not just worked immediately. It's not going to. He's got players in that team that he can't get rid of that don't want to, or doesn't seem like want to take that field every week. And until he gets that change, which can't happen until next year at least, until he makes those changes, we're not going to see as much success as we want to. And that just sucks. But it's what's going to happen.
Yeah. Novak Legacy 34. David Fafita wasted on the bench for most of the game. Falling out with Hasler, maybe. Who knows, mate? Who knows? No, I won't say anything about that at the moment, actually. But it seems like something's potentially happened there because he's on the bench and then he still didn't come on for another, felt like 10 minutes or so into the second half. So he sat on the bench for a long time. In a game that started to open up a little bit, the Titans started to come back into things. I thought it would have been the perfect time to bring him on. Cleese Haas didn't do anything on the edge, in my opinion, to get that many minutes either. So very weird one by Hazard. It's definitely felt like it's been a bit of a slap in the face to Fafita. Obviously, perhaps all we can go off is the preseason. He's done something or hasn't delivered where he should have, test results wise or something like that. But yeah, there potentially could be a story developing from it because that was just head scratching.
It could be. I don't think that Des Hasler's a bad enough coach to not play one of his best players due to a falling out. That's what I'm kind of getting at. Is I don't think there must be something else behind the scenes. I don't know what it is, but he wouldn't go like, oh, I don't like you. You're not invited to my birthday party, so you can't get on the field and play for us. Like, I just don't think that he is silly enough to do that, especially in a game where, they need that win. So it must be a coaching thing. Like as in when I say coaching, there must be like a performance issue or something along those lines. There could be a falling out due to it, or there could be some sort of falling out because of it kind of thing. But I don't think that that's the reason he's getting those few minutes. Because you're right, he should have been on that field. I still think he should be a starter, personally. I think that he's too valuable not to have on that field for longer periods of time.
Yeah. No, I agree. Here we go. So J.A.S 2024, he was done supporting the club. He's back into it with another question minutes after he sent that one out. So he isn't done with the club yet. He's hanging on. Hang on with us, Jace. We're all in this together. We'll go sit around a campfire, sim some kumbayas, and we'll get through this crying together. What have Eels been doing for the last 5 months? Why can't they defend? Well, we've said this all along. Their edge defense has been horrible for a number of years. I felt like that didn't really improve much in the offseason. But the thing is, it's hard for Riles at the moment. He's implementing his own system to players that either can't play it, don't want to play it because they're too butthurt about what happened to BA and their big BA men, or they simply just don't like they just can't. Their quality isn't quite there, and that's what the big thing for Riles is now. He's got to balance how hard he pushes them, I guess, and what he gets them to do, because there's no point teaching some of these players his systems or the ex-Storm way, things like that, because to be honest, majority of this playing group would struggle in the Storm system. I don't think they'd make it the Storm top 17. So he can't bring that sort of quality to the club while he doesn't have those sorts of qualities of players available. It's just not going to work.
I bring this back a lot to Cameron Ciraldo, and I know that you sort of said that you don't agree, or it was something along those lines at one point, but again, he walked into a club where he did as much getting rid of people as he could in that first time, and he came 15th after his, so that was at the time second last in the competition after his first season, and everyone bagged him out for ages. Everyone went, Ciraldo's, he's just another can't remember. There was another coach that was there before him. He was at the Eels. He just left. He's now at the Broncos. Oh my God, I'm having a brain snap.
Trent Barrett.
Thank you, Trent Barrett. He's just another Trent Barrett. He's come across from the Panthers. He's not going to do anything for him. But what happened was, again, he had a roster he didn't like. He had that he didn't want. He didn't like. He had these systems that he's trying to put into place that takes time for everyone to understand, especially if they had a different way that they were doing. At the time, they were a mess. If everyone remembers the Broncos of a few years ago, they were an absolute mess, and that's where we're sitting at the moment. And I think that these systems, it's been so long. We've had Brett Arthur for 13 years. We had him there as a coach. It's been so long doing the same thing again and again and again. And being in these systems as juniors, a lot of these players, even the young ones coming up, will have been doing the same systems. You just have to give it time for it to gel and develop, and these players will happen. Again, you said edge defense, right? We have two wingers missing. We have our two main wingers missing. I mean, preferably I'd like Simonson in the centers and Lomax on the wing. But anyway, either way, Simonson and Adokar, our two main wingers, who are very vocal in defense and things like that, aren't here at the moment. So you're going to have to give that time too. Hopefully when we have our full strength side, I'm not saying that that's the big issue, but I'm saying hopefully once we have our full strength side, I know how vocal Adokar is. That'll make a big difference to that side's edge defense for sure. So there's heaps of things to come. I think you're just going to have to give it time.
The last question of the night of the episode, the _Cashos. Supercoach one, I should have got this for Jesse while he was on, but you know what? Jace got the highest score of the group this week, and I'm still leading. I think overall. I think I'm overall leader still. So you got the two big dogs in at the moment. We'll answer it. Memo a keep for now. So Memo Zealous is Sandon a buy, and he's Preston a sell. Thanks, Casho. Thanks, mate. You're a big supporter of the page. You're always sending in questions and that, so I really do appreciate that side of things. To be fair, for me, Mamzillis was always a keep. I've got him at the moment. I was slightly worried at stages last week. I was going to go him to Riley Smith, but still Riley Smith can get that probably job for himself. I won't be doing that. And now Mamzillis is going to make some money. So that's the key. We spoke about with Jesse at the start of the episode. Sandon Smith, I have him at the moment. I'm literally running him at hooker, and I've said from the start of the year, and I stuck to my word as much as it shocked people out there. I played him on the weekend. I was advised by one person on the podcast not to, and I didn't listen to him, and I said, no, I'm playing him this weekend. So glad I did because he scored well. And he'll continue to have those sorts of games, I feel like, at times, but he'll also have a couple of bad games. But for the price, I love it. And for Presto, in my opinion, I've got him at the moment. I'm up in the air. I don't necessarily love what I'm seeing from Presto, but at the same time, I feel like there's some other fires I need to put out first. Preston got a try and it only equivalated to a 58 Supercoach score-wise today, which isn't great. There is a part of me that's tempted to go Preston to either Haas if I can make it work with a couple of the other trades I can do, because I can duel down, say, Horsburgh, for instance. Or do I just go straight away, go from Presto to Tino, which will free me up a little bit of cash, I think, as well. So I'll see what happens there this week. Obviously, listen to our Wednesday show to see what I sort of decided on. But, yeah, that's my sort of responses for those.
Mamazales as a hold, I mean, he's going to make money, so there's no real reason. There's definitely no reason to get rid of him. Sandon Smith being a buy, though, is interesting.
I wouldn't buy him now.
He's definitely a hold if you have him. That's an absolute certainty. But as a buy, it's super interesting. Although he probably will go up in money. I haven't looked at his break even. I actually don't know what his break even is. So you have to check that out. If his break even is low enough, he could be a play. I think you should have had him from the start, to be completely honest with you. That's kind of the what you should have had. But just have to check his break even. I'd say if it's probably 20 or less, I'd say, yeah, probably get him in if he's capable of doing that again. You know, we've seen that he can do it, and what the Roosters can do against the Panthers side. There's no reason to say that they can't do that again. And then Jacob Preston's a weapon. I've always been a big believer in him. But before he sort of starts to go down in price a little bit, I'd say if you can upgrade. If not a hold. I wouldn't say he's a sell. I'd upgrade or hold. I wouldn't sell him for no reason. I think he can find form.
It's interesting because now Kickout's out, you kind of in a way want to keep him as well because it feels like they might go to him a bit more.
Sure.
But then I remember they've got Satilli there now, and he might be just as much as of a go-to on the edge if he gets that spot for Kickout. So it might not even make a difference. So I'm in a couple of minds at the moment, Casho. I'm just trying to come back from this weekend's games. Give me a couple of days to get ready. Just on the Sandon one and buying him, I just think there's more buys out there that are must-have buys over Sandon if you don't have him. That's why I don't think he's essentially a must-have because there's, in my opinion, way more players out there that if you're not in your team at the moment, you should be getting first. But that's just me personally. That's it, guys. Bigger episode tonight. Plenty to talk about. Great football over the weekend. A few teams with some headaches and a few that are absolutely flying, which is always great to see. Again, smash that like button for us for both the podcast, the YouTube watchers as well. Add some comments in. Let us know what you're thinking, how your team's going. Ask us some questions in there. We'll get back to you. Myself and Trav keep an eye on YouTube comments and things like that. So we'll always get back to you, including the Facebook as well. But yeah, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Give us those hearts. Follow us on wherever you listen to your podcast as well. It goes a huge way of continuing to support us and grow the page. It's been huge so far. But have a great night. Have a good day whenever you're listening to this. And we'll chat to you again Tuesday night for the live shows. Don't forget, jump on. Chat with us live on air for our Tuesday shows. He's getting bigger and bigger every week so far. And Wednesday for the Supercoach. Good night, Jake. And good night, everyone else.